Hello, welcome back to the second paradigm, and welcome back to Trending Energetics, a new series here where we are unpacking collective energetics that may or may not be masquerading as you inside of your own biology, masquerading as your own thoughts and emotions, hopefully bringing some awareness to these collective thoughts and emotions or collective energetics. One, so you can disconnect from them, but two, so you have some greater self-awareness. So you can understand more about your own physiology, more about what you're feeling throughout the day, and more about which emotions and which thoughts, which motivations might actually be yours. Now, this is going to be part teaching and part trending energetics, meaning we have some context to lay here at the beginning of this series, but we're still very much going to get into some very specific energetics that are playing out right now in this frame of time that we're all in here today. Now, before we begin, we'd love to take a moment with you to breathe, settle in a little bit, to find some semblance of peace inside of yourself. And if you feel so called, or if you've been around some of the work at the second paradigm before, feel free to call in your oversoul, ask to be disconnected from the collective field, call in your truest soul essence. And if those words mean nothing to you, totally fine. Feel free to just breathe and find peace inside of your system. Try to come to an emotionally neutral place inside of yourself. Slowing down, allowing your mind to calm down, allowing your emotions from whatever you've been experiencing the last few minutes to just sort of slowly wind down. And see if you can find that place inside of you that's essentially stillness. Doesn't matter if you have thoughts or not in that space, but see if you can feel the texture of neutrality. There is just nothing exciting about it. There's nothing sad about it. There's nothing angry about it. It's just sort of nothing. It's the place where you have no problems, or nothing's particularly wrong with your life. Nothing's hooking you. Nothing is demanding your attention. It is just you and nothing. Now, when you are in this space, when you are in an emotionally neutral space, you have greater access to your soul, to your intuition, to what we would call your truest soul essence. This is the place that we would always encourage making decisions from. Certainly large decisions in your life. For your career, for certain relationships. Am I going to stop talking to this person? Am I going to end this toxic relationship? This is that place where decisions are made that most closely resemble who you are as the soul. Now, inside of this place, there is a truth about your circumstances. There may be multiple truths about your circumstances, but there are things that are more pressing than others inside of this space. There are thoughts, there are feelings about what's actually happening in front of you, about your experience inside of this place. Now, they may be sort of existential in nature. They may be, I need to get out of this career. They may be, I need to end this particular friendship. And maybe I need to get out of this circumstance. I need to move. It may be an end to something, or a call to transition, a call into a new chapter of life. It may be massive, or it may be just a conversation that's sort of playing out over and over again, not because you're insecure about it, not because it's rocking you terribly, but because there's something inside of that experience that highlights a very particular lesson for you, a very particular new energetic or a new perspective that's trying to come online from inside of your experience. Now, this data that is still here inside of this emotionally neutral place, we would call what's here. The things that still are present inside of your experience when you're inside of that relatively emotional neutral place. Now, if you weren't inside of your collective, and if you didn't have the internet, if you didn't have media, you might be much more familiar with this sort of space for decision making. But because you're in this era, media, other people's thoughts, tend to fill this space. And what the media is displacing is your own experience. Now, typically, you might imagine, you would make decisions inside of your circumstances, or you would feel certain things, you would think certain things based on your own experience. But increasingly more inside of your collective, people are building thoughts inside of themselves and having emotional reactions to things that they are not actually experiencing. It's so disconnected from their experience that they actually could not find that thing that they are angry about or sad about inside of their experience anywhere. They couldn't pick up the phone and call someone who was having that experience. They could not find that outrage or that sadness, that sorrow inside of their experience. So you're in this odd era where media is displacing your own experience. Now, it's important to understand that this is happening so that when you sit down and you ask yourself, what am I feeling? You understand that the inputs into those feelings aren't all your own. They aren't even all your own experience. And what that means is that a decent percentage of what you are feeling and thinking throughout the day is completely irrelevant to your own experience. Now, this is an odd way to exist because it makes it significantly more difficult to navigate your own experience. Because maybe there is nothing inside of your experience at all that would make you angry. But because of the media that you were watching, because of other people's experiences or thoughts on the internet or on the TV, you were nothing but angry. Now, everybody understands to some degree that that anger then sort of casts a haze over what you're feeling, and it makes it difficult to navigate your own circumstances with a level head. You might jump to anger much more quickly, not because of anything that's happened in your experience, but because of something that has happened inside of the media that you've consumed and taken in as if it were your own experience. So when we're talking about collective energetics, things that people are thinking and feeling, part of what we're doing here is exploring energetics or ways of being, ways of thinking that are just popular in your collective right now. trends, thoughts and emotions that many people are having simultaneously. But also, what we're talking about is the media. Because these two things are interlinked, they're inseparable. Because much of what people are thinking and feeling comes directly from the media, comes from outside of their experience. Now, there would still be collective trends if there was no media. People would still be coming to certain conclusions within their life, and there would be certain conclusions that your species as a whole is coming to sort of simultaneously. And you might still feel that, and that might still impact you. That sort of energetic connectedness between you and everybody else is very, very real, but you have an artificial input that makes this much more complicated. You have the media that is displacing your own experience. So what you're experiencing, depending on who you are and how much media you're consuming, might be 50% not your own experience. You might be experiencing half of your life outside of your own life. And the thoughts and emotions that would be flooded inside of your body would be thoughts and emotions that are completely irrelevant to your own experience, which means you would be incapable of navigating your experience in a pure way. Partially because you wouldn't know what your experience is. It would be very difficult to isolate out just the piece of your life that is the things you're experiencing without the media and the thoughts and the emotions sort of putting that haze over everything. So in our first Trending Energetics video, we talked about that feeling that everything was about to break. So what's the point? Civilization is going down, so what's the point? But that feeling has nothing to do with your experience. That feeling has everything to do with media. That feeling would be very unlikely to exist inside of your system unless you had a tether to the news, unless you had a tether to other people's perspectives online. Because chances are you would not have a single conversation throughout the day. You would not have any glimpse of collapse in your own experience. You wouldn't know to think of things in that lens unless you heard it and it was sort of positioned inside of you. Now, we can talk about whether or not that's malicious, whether or not it's intentional to have people's thoughts and emotions guided on a collective scale in such a manner, but that's completely beside the point. The point is, there's a percentage of your experience that is not your own, that is placed there by information that's not your own experience. Now, we can say in an ideal world, you have no input through the media, but that's not practical. You are going to be tethered to experience that is not your own. That is absolutely going to continue to happen. And even if you were to go directly to your place of peace and you were to ask what we believe to be God, from our perspective, that deep guidance and wisdom you have inside of that emotionally neutral space, when you call on your oversoul, disconnect from the collective, find that place of peace, what is here is the mind of God interfacing with you. Now, what you find inside of this place will always be directly linked to your own experience. It'll always be about moving your own experience forward. And it is inevitable that the media is going to continue to cloud it. It is absolutely inevitable. And again, if you were to go to this place inside of yourself and you were to ask God, hey, should I stop consuming all media whatsoever so that my experience is more of me? Chances are what you would get back is, no, don't worry about it. Continue to consume the media. Totally fine. Checks out. And if you were to say, no, but I really, really want to cut it out, wouldn't that be better for me? You might be surprised to feel that little inkling of, it might be better for you in some ways, but it's just a symptom of the era that you were in. And you don't need to distance yourself from your collective experience to have a more pure experience. It's okay that you're having the experience that your collective is having right now. It's okay that you were tethered into the media. It's okay that a percentage of your experience is not your own. It's okay, that's where you are. That's the place that you exist inside of. It's okay that some of that might be malicious. It's okay that some of your emotions may be positioned inside of you, and it may make you want to act in ways that sort of bypass your free will. That's okay. That's where you are. And you don't need to scramble to try to fix it by cutting yourself off from the media. That's one solution, and you may feel guided to it at certain points in your life, but it's not a long-term solution. The long-term solution, and hopefully you'd be able to feel this inside of your own peace, not just take a recommendation from B. The long-term solution is to understand that some of the emotions that you're feeling are not your own. To understand that there are trending energetics. And these trending energetics have an impact on you. And they put a film over your experience. And you were looking through those colored glasses and you may never fully know what your experience would be without it. All of that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It is just where you are. But when you're aware of it, you can remind yourself to come back to that place of peace to make decisions in your life. That's the only thing that really matters. It is okay if you are full of bias. It is okay if you're full of anger and angst that's not your own, as long as you have some understanding of, okay, this is the era that I'm in. Everybody is feeling this to some degree because we are all being told to feel this. We are all being shown information that forces us to feel this or encourages us to feel this, and there's no escaping it. There's no escaping the dread, the anger, the sorrow, the feeling like everything's about to fall apart. That's just what we collectively are feeling right now. Is it on purpose? Hard to tell, might be, but that's beside the point. When I know that, I can come back to my own peace, and inside of that center, inside of that emotionally neutral place within myself, I can make decisions about my own experience. I can go back to the place where I have a real-time personal connection to God, and I can act on the guidance that I'm getting, not act on the emotions that everyone is feeling right now. So now that we've explored this conceptually, laid some grounds for the series as a whole, let's zero into an emotion that's up right now. Let's explore a feeling. Chances are, if you are consuming media to any degree whatsoever, there's a feeling in there of being a little bit afraid for your life. Now, there's a wide variety of thoughts that goes with that feeling, but that feeling is in multiple pockets, multiple collective pockets, whether you're on the left or the right, regardless of whether you're religious or not, whatever community or group ideology you might find yourself inside of, there's a little fear back in there for your life. Now, if you look at your own experience, there is zero reason why you should be afraid for your life. None. With rare exception, the large majority of people have no reason to be afraid for their life. Zero inside of their experience. Meaning, if all of their experience was their own, without the media, they would not be afraid for their life. But with the media, they are now afraid for their life. Now again, the narrative varies. It's the government, it's the foreign invaders, it's the weather. It's people that would not like my perspectives. It's the enemy here in this country. It's those people that are being radicalized left and right. There's danger afoot. Or even more broadly, when civilization collapses, it might collapse in such a way that I'm no longer safe. Is that likely? No. Does your experience point to that? No. But the thoughts are very much there. The emotions are very much there. And it's helpful to understand that they may not be yours, that they may be a collective trending energetic. Now, if this is the case, you might have nothing to worry about, which means if you were to get locked inside of this feeling of being afraid for your life, it might be helpful to settle back into your own peace, into that emotionally neutral space, and ask yourself very serious questions of, am I actually safe? Is there anything I need to be worried about? And what you will almost certainly find, again with rare exception, is that when you are in your peace, in that emotionally neutral space, communing with God, making decisions about your own experience, there's nothing to be afraid of. That information is useless. Does it mean that you're going to be able to tune it out? Probably not. Not every single day. Does it mean you're never going to feel it again? Absolutely not. But can you sort of isolate it out as, oh, this is what we're all sort of feeling right now? Okay. All right. Now back to my life, what am I going to do about this situation? What am I going to do about the things that are actually in front of me? What am I going to do about the things that are here? Actually here inside of my own experience. Not our experience, not my group's experience, not the internet's experience, but my own experience, physically. You are bound to continue to feel things that are not yours. Is that a problem? Do you need to disconnect from it? Not necessarily. But it's helpful to understand that the media displaces your own experience, that you may be feeling things that are not your own. In fact, you are almost bound to feel things that are not your own. And it's helpful to have the understanding that when you are feeling things that are not your own, it's very difficult to make decisions for your life. So knowing this, you build a relationship with your peace, and that's the place you go to make decisions. When you're feeling riled up and you want to make decisions about your life manically because it feels like you need to do something right now, sometimes it might overtake you. Sometimes you might find yourself just moving and going and you don't realize it till you're on the other side of a decision or a few decisions. But when you can, it will always be helpful, and it will always lead to a better outcome for you that you yourself like more, that you yourself resonate more with when you're able to come down into your peace to make those decisions. Because in your peace, that is your truest soul essence. That is who you are. That is you disconnected from the noise. And if you allow the noise to make decisions for you, it effectively bypasses your free will and you end up living an experience that is not your own. And that is a uniquely miserable life. That can be avoided. So we hope some of that context around this series, why we're doing it, and some of the energetics that we're talking about is helpful to some degree. We'll certainly be back at a later time. We'll certainly unpack more of these trending energetics, but for the time being, we encourage you to settle into your peace, to make decisions for your own life. And we hope you find more of yourself there and you feel your life coming into greater alignment with who you actually are. With that, so much love to you, and we'll speak to you at a later time. Bye for now.